Thank you, Ollie, for giving it back. Yeah, this time Berto, first OCC appearance here. We saw you once in Nations Cup. You did a fantastic job there. Looking forward to cast the following match together with you. But first of all, how are you doing, Berto?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I mean, my first time casting in the OCC, not my first time.
Okay. Yeah, I did this wrong earlier, and I was thinking, oh no, it's not his first OCC appearance because he already played in it, but this time on the casters end. Glad to have you here, and we take a look at the decks first. And since you are like let's call it the apprentice of Jking, maybe you can lead us through his decks that he's bringing today.
All right. Well, the arty is interesting. I had actually spoken with Jking yesterday, and he was not entirely sure what he was going to play, but I said I've been having a really good time with arty recently. With United We Stand and Sickles in the same deck is such a powerful combination, because with other decks, sometimes you have United We Stand and you get stuck on the card. It's hard to hit something with it. People are playing a lot of Gree health units.
Yeah.
But with Sickle, it really just smooths things out. So I feel like arty is being a little bit slept on right now, and it appears that Jking agrees with that.
Is another reason for that the German, Soviet and German Brit Hammer deck is so popular at the moment, and I think this arty deck should not be too bad against that.
Yes, it's definitely a counter matchup, especially with the Red Dawns, which Jking is running. Really helps out in the early game against those.
And also the anti-tank gun is really strong, right? So
yes,
really good pick here, but unfortunately nobody besides the German Soviet from Bubbles and Kolbasnik is bringing German Brit today. But I think anyways it's a good matchup wise here for Jking against Kolbasnik. But let's take a look at the second deck here, which is a German Italy deck.
Yes, so this is another deck where you think he was probably thinking about the Hummer meta that you're seeing on ladder, in that German control is just really good against those low to the ground decks with Flampanzers, Sudden Strikes, and the Mare Nostrums to heal back up after you might fall behind a little bit in the early game.
But also not too bad against Brit Air, right?
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Sudden Strikes and Flampanzer are also good against that. And he's also having the Schwalbe in it. So that gives me the intention that he is also focusing on countering Brit Air a little bit while out-controlling other matchups, maybe with, as you said, Mare Nostrum, but also La Decima in that line for a really strong removal that Italy is bringing into your deck with Italy as ally. And the third deck is US Germany. The mid-range deck is back, right?
Yes, it is. Jking was saying to me that on ladder he had a 90% win rate with this deck.
Oh, okay. I think Jking is having 90% with almost all the decks, right?
If I see him usually
I have 90% over the past 100 games. Okay.
Usually 80 to 90, which is of course very impressive. But 90 is definitely about as high as you can get. And this deck is a staple. It's a deck to be reckoned with, and it's really a deck which Jking brought into popularity a few months ago when this was most of what you saw on ladder.
Yeah, good to see that the island hopping is back. So when Jking is bringing this deck to OCCs, you can see island hopping in the deck, island hopping out of the deck, island hopping into the deck. So it always switches. He decides now that island hopping is good again, and I'm excited to see how it works out for him and how strong that US-German mid-range deck still is in the current meta. Now, we are coming to Kolbasnik's deck, or decks. First one, we saw a similar one from Bubbles earlier, the German-Soviet deck. I think we do not need to go deeper into that one. Hopefully it's not getting banned this time. I want to see it in action.
Yeah,
then
sure.
We have that Brit US air deck. I think we all know it, and we all are annoyed of it already. Also, Kolbasnik is bringing the P38 Lightning. I think he's the second player out of 6 players who are bringing this. The other ones are not having it in the deck. So that's the only difference between all the air decks, if there is a P38 in it or not. And I think the replacement is Convoys or Ultra. I think some people play with Ultra, some play without. And then the third deck is also similar to Bubble's deck, the Japan-German Feint Retreat with Henschel in it.
Ooh, so Jking is really going to hope that he can take his German-Italy control deck into this deck. Because Mare Nostrum can just absolutely cripple a Jagro deck. And you can really take the game out of their hands and completely remove their burn win condition.
Yeah, I think that German-Italy deck is good against all decks from Kolbasnik, right? Like
yeah.
Also that Brit US Air and even the German-Soviet, I guess, is like the German-US, if you can deal with the early Henschel units and can heal with Mare Nostrum, also that Sys pincer combo is not doing that much. It's not having Blitzkrieg. You cannot push out 15 damage in one turn. It's just steady over time with one big unit or with a mass amount of unit, but there's not like an OTK potential, and that might be the reason why I think that Kolbasnik is probably banning that German-Italy control. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that is almost certainly going to happen. But even with that deck banned, Jking's Artie can be quite scary against any aggressive deck. You know, if you have an artillery going first and all that your Jagro deck has is X1s, like trying to fight for the front line, then it's really hard to come back from that sort of spot. And Bloody Sickle is really powerful as well. Although, one thing that is going for Kolbasnik is Jking has a lot of self-damage with his Red Dawns and his 5-year plans. So it does give him a little better of a shot.
Yeah, and also Desperate Measures and Bombing Raid are not too bad against artillery if your opponent is having 2-3 artilleries, 1 Desperate Measures.
That is shocking.
Okay. We've been wrong. So the US mid-range deck is getting banned from Jking.
Yeah.
Kolbasnik gets his US air deck. What? Jking is banning the air deck. Although he has a strong... maybe he expected that German-Italy got banned. And so he decided to ban that one. Because, I mean, it makes sense. If you do the deep level thinking, like he's banning that, then this is better than for me. And so I think that is the result of that you just ban a deck that you think you have a good matchup with. But, yeah. I mean, the artillery deck, how good is it against air?
I would say air is favorable into the artillery deck.
So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's hard to get out of range of a board clear in the artillery deck.
Yeah, like you have no we can do it in your deck, right? So your artilleries just stay at 1 or 2 health, and every slight AoE removal just kills all of it. But there we are, into the mulligans. Jking starting with the Soviet US artillery deck. Kolbasnik going with the German Soviet. Oh, well, that's a good turn 1.
Yeah, but Jking does have the anti-tank gun, and he's going to bring this tank down to a great relist turn. So unless Kolbasnik can... He could play Heinzel.
Yeah, he should play, yeah.
Yeah. And now Jking's plans are in a little bit of trouble. But it's still a very powerful card here. He's going to need to spend 2 credits. He's going to need to trade. He'll have a 5-2. It could potentially die to the Katyusha next turn.
Oh, but the Befehlswagen, that can make a big difference here.
Yeah, that's a really good draw for Kolbasnik.
Jking not with the greatest hand. Mobilization, 5-year plan in hand. Not really what you want to find.
It looked like he had a really good start, but the draws for really
Did you see his cheering? You're so happy about that 50-50.
Oh, for sure.
Already rolling in with the BM here. Not really.
And
that was... Yeah?
What do you think about this, Spooz? Playing the 22nd Infantry instead of playing the Stug Bree and trading and keeping your Bethelsvagen at 2 HP?
At what turn?
The last turn for Kolbasnik. Because he knows Sickles could be on the table.
You moved
I
the
think
Henschel
that-
to the front line. Oh, God.
Now this is really awkward for Kolbasnik.
Yeah, that is the
risky
biggest
play.
weakness of this deck, right? Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, I was just saying that he made a risky play to greed out for the draws the last turn, but Sickles, it just really hurt everything he was trying to do there.
Yeah, both players just leveled themselves into a next level play here, like Jking setting up for the anti-tank gun play there, then Kolbasnik rolling in with the Henschel there, and then Jking, he had a good 50-50, but he had a backup plan with the sickle, right? So it was not really just pure luck. I mean, that saved Jking 5 damage on his HQ there.
Mm-hmm.
But what was that move to Henschel to the front line to protect against exactly that? The Greyhound?
Yeah.
Jking doing the same thing. Nice.
Yeah.
That kind of forces Kolbasnik to attack into the Chaika, so a really smart move.
Yeah, well, we're not going to see him attacking into the Chaika this turn.
Yeah, not really. That's not really.
It's worth noting that if this was the pre-nerfed Patriotic Firestorm, Jking was able to clear the entire board last turn. He was just 1 credit short.
Was it 1 credit before?
Yes.
Really? I'm so used to 2 credits that I do not really remember when it cost 1.
It wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, but I'm also old, so the time spent till you forget things is just shorter. It gets shorter and shorter.
If Jking just gets 3 Polycarpovs out that each give him the order, that seems really hard for Kolbasnik to deal with.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention earlier, Kolbasnik is in a really tough spot now because this deck is not providing a lot of draw. He's only having 1 22nd now and the Martyr in the deck. And the Martyr is only drawing when you kill units. I mean, there are a lot of killable units on board here. But if you don't find these, you're just stuck with Flammpanzer, a Cis, and a Jäger regiment here.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, the war production is not really providing a lot of value at this point of the game. It's just the first 2-3 turns. After that, you don't want to top deck a war production.
Yeah, it seems like this deck really struggles if the opponent manages to stabilize at any point, and Jking's definitely stabilized here.
Yeah,
it was a little scary looking into a 5-5 on turn 2, but the anti-tank gun certainly put in work.
Yeah, this card is so annoying when you play tanks. Yeah, I know the fast Heinz matter, and then you run into an artillery deck. It was so hard to get rid of these anti-tank guns.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and he's forced to kill them. That's always such a hard choice. I mean, you don't want to have them on board because they can deal constant damage to your units, but you also don't want to give your opponent from the people. It's so annoying.
Yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, it's choose. You have to choose between 2 horrible options that make it look like you can't win the game. Yeah. And I don't want to count them out completely yet, but it would definitely take some sort of miracle. But I mean, we saw a miracle in the last game with Tang Tang.
But I think Kolbasnik winning that one is more unlikely than we saw. Situation last turn. I mean, yeah, I want to say, why is he not using Flammpanzer to get rid of these?
Yeah, he would definitely need a Martyr after Jking floods the board, while Kolbasnik still has quite a few units to be able to trade with.
Look at this, with this Red Dawn, if Jking wants to, he can just clear the whole board. But I think he can just leave the Jäger Regiment there.
Yeah, not really any rush to kill it.
Because there's no way for Kolbasnik to buff that one. At Katyusha. Not helping a lot. But at this point, Kolbasnik cannot have a good top deck. It's not like you have Enigma in the deck, you can top deck Enigma, draw yourself 6 cards here.
Yeah.
The best you can draw is a
KV.
Martyr. I think this game is over. Pretty sure.
I'd agree.
So as good as this deck performed in the qualifiers, I mean, it got banned for bubbles, so we do not know how it would have went there, but this performance here was not too impressive.
I mean, it's pretty easy to see how if Jking didn't have the tank gun, the game probably would have been over on turn 4.
Yeah, well, just imagine he would not hit the 50-50 with the Katyusha. Then would have been he would be at 8 now, and Kolbasnik maybe at some point would have gone face instead of trading the Polikarpov away, stuff like that.
It doesn't really matter at this point of the game, but it feels pretty bad to play Mobilization and to see Zhukov and then to see Cuban Cossacks.
I think even what is the only thing that is worse if you have Zhukov in hand at the beginning of the match. And when your turn begins, you top deck the Cossacks.
That actually happened to me in an OCC. I was going second. I kept my entire hand because I had the Zhukov in it. And turn 1, I drew Cuban Cossacks.
Oh, how bad.
I still won the game, though, fortunately.
But props to Kolbasnik here, that he's still in the game and did not surrender by now.
Yeah, he's playing it out.
Oh, Jking is also having first rifles.
Yes, he was talking to me about running that in Artie, and I didn't think that it was good. But look, he's having success with it.
5-5. And that means game 1 goes to Mr. Jking.
Yes, it does.
That was another fast one. Congrats. Jking really happy. I think the thing he's most happy about was that Katyusha hitting twice on turn 3. It was a very important step of the game. And yeah, from there on, I think Kolbasnik could not do a lot. Only Flammpanzer, Sis in hand, nothing to buff them with. I think that's the biggest weakness of this deck, probably. If you don't find your Henschel and you're out of stuff to buff your units, you just run with non-buffed 35 Ts and Sis, and that's just not enough damage to kill your opponent. I think it can be even harder now against the German Italy control deck with so much healing and sudden strikes, Flammpanzers. But let's see. Here we go.
Yeah.
Germany versus Germany, but 2 completely different playstyles. Oh, that starting hand is not too great here for Kolbasnik. I think you want to look for war production. And that's why he's giving away a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
double Befelswagen. I think it's pretty good. Not
wow,
into
okay. That changes the whole hand now. Oh, okay. Nice top deck there for Jking.
But he's probably thinking he's running Heinschel with Panzer 35Ts. Sudden Strike is such a valuable card in this matchup. You can be killing a 5-5 with it. And if he waits, he probably will. But does he just need to deal with the tempo? And he decides yes. And this also means that his Flammpanzer isn't going to have a target on turn 3.
What was that Henschel? Yeah, I think that was a mistake. Odd. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I would have just played out the Panzer 35T.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake. He emoted 8-9 straight after that. So I think that was not really what he wanted. And that 5-5 there for Jking. Ooh.
I also think the best play for Kolbasnik is to move up the Panzer 35T here, but it would absolutely get blown out by Root Out. but he might feel like he needs to take the risk.
Yeah, that Rootout is destroying everything from Kolbasnik. Besides the autocannon.
Yeah. And it's the alternate art, but I believe that 3 credit order in Jking's hand is tactical strike.
Yeah.
So he is able to deal with the artillery as well and move up his 5/5.
Kolbasnik should really move to the front line, yeah, to get his Befehlswagen out of hand and in the front line. That Henschel play really backfires now, I mean. Yeah, I don't see it. That is just another uphill battle here for Kolbasnik.
I think this might be a quick 2-0 for Jking.
It really looks like, especially with the Rootout still sitting in hand.
Yeah.
And 35T all just having 2 health. I mean, the Panzer Grenadiers maybe can carry here.
I mean, it's decent, but I mean, Jking just gets to trade in if he wants to.
Also, with the Admiral Hipper, you can deny a draw there for Kolbasnik. Probably not now, but maybe later in the game. You can also just trade, set up the from the deep.
Yeah, it's not bad to Admiral Hitler the Befehlswagen here, because it removes the pincer, and he wouldn't be able to take the front line because he already has it. But not what Jake can go as far.
But is he expecting from the deep? Probably.
Yeah, it's got to be on your mind. It's either that or Jking has a very heavy hand, which is definitely possible in his deck.
Nope. And that is just getting sent back. Yeah, oh god. Yeah, and if you compare this now from Kolbasnik with the Soviet-US arty deck from Jking that has like Urar and tense engineers in it and can give a good comeback potential, I think that Soviet-German deck has almost no comeback potential when you're in a situation like that. When you don't control the board completely or have 2-3 units on board that you can buff with a handshell, there's just no top deck that can give you anything to bring you back into the game. Like, well, how is he dealing with that guard there?
Yeah, it certainly looks like that from these games.
Or even more Nostrum. And that Rudolph. Oh, can we stop this, please? Yeah.
And there's no way for Kolbasnik to get back control of the front line without putting a ton of resources into this. Jking's gonna marry Nostrum, probably trade.
Yeah, trade into the Flampanzer.
Ooh, and then he also gets to play his other Flampanzer to deal with the 1/1.
It is looking so easy here for Jking.
Yeah.
Looks like a practice match in football. Like you're just shooting on an empty wall and nobody's responding.
Yeah, I don't
20
think...
seconds too late.
I don't think Kolbasnik could have really played these games differently enough.
No,
yeah. You gotta wonder about the bans if he made a misstep there.
Yeah, I also think that this US-German mid-range deck is not providing that much tempo early game like this German or Soviet deck from Jking. Like as we saw, that anti-tank gun just completely destroyed Kolbasnik's game plan there. And that is the top deck I was speaking about earlier. War production on turn 9. Like, what are you doing with this when you have an empty hand?
Yeah, that does not feel good.
So, Kolbasnik, if you can hear us, it is okay to surrender now. Like, we all know there's nothing that you can find here that can bring you back into the game. FW.
It's also worth noting that even if Kolbasnik did ban either this deck that Jking's playing now, his control, or if he banned
did you see that?
The Artie, his US mid-range deck still runs Flame Panzers. Like, you're still like, just all of his decks are good into aggro/tempo decks. So it was a really hard decision for Kolbasnik.
Yeah, absolutely. He had to fell a choice, and yeah, even with this deck banned, the other two decks would have still been really bad matchup for him. And as we already predicted, Jking with a really, really good matchup in this quarterfinal, and therefore taking the spot in the semifinals. I think he's up against Tang in the semifinals. Anything you want to add about this, Berto? If not, then I'm giving it back to Spooz and Ollie again.
No, go ahead. Back to Spooz and Ollie.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, welcome back. That was a quick 2-0 there. That Germany-Soviet deck not finding the success Kolbasnik had hoped against Jking stack lineups there. And I mean, I was just looking at it. That game number one, man, how different that game could have been, you know, if just that caddy doesn't hit twice, or if Jking doesn't have that anti-tank gun in hand. You know, just having that 5-5 in the front line in the face very quickly on. But you know, luckily for Jking, he was able to bring it back. So, you know, excellently played. We're probably waiting on the updated brackets right now, but what I can say is while we were doing this, No5 and Artemisia finished their series, and Artemisia took that one 2-1. And we got 2 series on stream while that series was going on. That was a 47 minutes of in-game time in those 3 games. The first game was 25 minutes, then it was a 10-minute game, and then it was a 12-minute game. So a really hard-fought battle there from Artemisia to take out No5. And what we talked about in the pre-show, Spooz, you know, this is Artemisia's opportunity to show themselves as, you know, the top dog in the Chinese community, make it all the way to the finals. And he has already taken that first step by knocking out No5 here in the quarterfinals. So huge congratulations to Artemisia climbing that competitive ladder, increasing his reputation and his profile within the competitive scene. But there we see the bracket. Jking will be taking on Hui. He's not going to be taking on Tang. Tang is in the upper side of the bracket. So they can only meet in the finals. But there you see it, Tang, he's going to be taking on Artemisia. And then on the bottom there, Jking is going to be taking on Hui.